Bismillah, there is a silent battle many people fight every single day, a battle that no one else can see. It's the battle inside your chest, the racing thoughts, the heavy heart, the constant worry about what might happen next. Anxiety. You smile in front of people, but inside you feel overwhelmed, you feel uncertain, you feel afraid. But listen carefully. You are not alone in this struggle, and more importantly, you are not without guidance. In Islam, anxiety is not ignored. It is understood, addressed, and healed at its root. The first thing you need to understand is this: your anxiety is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that your heart is searching for something stable in a world that constantly changes, and that something is Allah. Because everything you are anxious about, your future, your rizq, your relationships, your problems, all of it is already in His control. So why do we feel anxious? Because we try to carry what was never meant for us to carry. You were never meant to control everything. You were never meant to know every outcome. You were never meant to guarantee your future. That's Allah's role. And when you try to take His role, your heart collapses under the pressure, but the moment you return things back to Him, something incredible happens. Your heart begins to breathe again. Allah tells us to rely on Him, not casually, but completely. Tawakkul is not just saying, I trust Allah. It is living it. It is waking up and saying, Ya Allah, I will do my best, but I leave the results to you. It is understanding that whatever comes your way, success or failure, ease or hardship, is not random. It is intentional. It is designed. And it is always for your growth. Your anxiety often comes from what if? What if I fail? What if I lose? What if things don't work out? But Islam shifts your mindset from what if to even if. Even if things don't go my way, Allah is still in control. Even if I lose something, Allah will replace it with something better. Even if I struggle, there is reward, purification, and elevation waiting for me. This is not just optimism, this is faith. And faith is the strongest antidote to anxiety. Another powerful cure is salah, not rushed, not distracted, but real, deep, connected prayer. Because when you stand in front of Allah, you are standing in front of the one who controls everything that is worrying you. Think about that. The thing that is keeping you awake at night is already in His hands. So instead of letting your thoughts consume you, take them into sujood, cry if you need to, speak honestly, be vulnerable, because Allah is not asking for perfection. He is asking for connection, and when your heart connects to Him, it no longer depends on the unstable world for peace. It finds peace in the one who never changes. Also remember this: your anxiety decreases when your dunya becomes smaller in your heart. The more attached you are to outcomes, people, and control, the more anxious you become. But the more you attach yourself to Allah, the more azad your heart becomes, because now your peace is not dependent on what happens, but on who you are connected to, and Allah is enough. Always so when anxiety hits you again, and it will, don't panic, pause, breathe, and remind yourself, this is not bigger than Allah. Say it again, this is not bigger than Allah. Because nothing is, not your fears, not your problems, not your future, nothing. So walk forward with trust, make dua with certainty, and live with the deep understanding that Allah is managing your life better than you ever could. And when you truly believe that, your anxiety will no longer control you, because your heart will finally know where to rest. One of the biggest hidden causes of anxiety is the constant urge to control everything around us. We want to control outcomes, people's opinions, our future, our success, and even the smallest details of our lives. At first, this may seem like responsibility or ambition, but in reality, it slowly becomes a burden that the heart was never designed to carry. Think about it. How much of your anxiety comes from things that haven't even happened yet? You keep thinking, what will happen tomorrow? What if things go wrong? What if I fail? What if I lose something important? These thoughts create a storm inside your mind, not because those things are real in the present moment, but because you are trying to control a future that is completely unseen. And this is where the problem begins. As human beings, we are limited. Our knowledge is limited, our power is limited, and our control is limited. Yet, anxiety begins when we forget these limits and start acting as if everything depends on us. We try to plan every detail perfectly, we overthink every decision, and we exhaust ourselves trying to guarantee outcomes that are never guaranteed. Islam teaches a completely different perspective, one that liberates the heart instead of suffocating it. You were never created to control everything. You were created to try, to strive, and to trust. There is a difference between responsibility and control. Responsibility means you do your part, you make effort, you take action, you make sincere intentions. But control? That belongs only to Allah. When you blur this line, anxiety takes over. Because deep inside, your soul knows you are carrying something too heavy. Imagine holding a weight that is far beyond your strength. At first, you try to manage it, but slowly your arms begin to shake, your body feels weak, and eventually you feel like collapsing. This is exactly what happens when you try to control your entire life. You are holding a weight that was never meant for you. And the solution is not to become careless or stop trying. The solution is to release the illusion of control. Understand this deeply. No matter how much you plan, you cannot control results. No matter how much you worry, you cannot change what is written. No matter how much you overthink, you cannot guarantee the future. So what should you do instead? You do your best and then you let go. This letting go is not weakness. It is one of the strongest acts of faith. It means you recognize your limits and accept Allah's perfection. It means you trust that even if things don't go according to your plan, they are still going according to a better plan. When you truly internalize this, something begins to shift inside you. Your mind becomes quieter, your chest feels lighter, your thoughts slow down because now you are no longer trying to control everything. You are simply doing your part and leaving the rest to the one who controls all things. And this doesn't mean life becomes free of problems. It means your relationship with problems changes. You no longer see them as threats you must control, but as tests you must navigate with trust. So the next time you feel anxiety rising, pause and ask yourself, am I trying to control something that is not in my hands? If the answer is yes, remind yourself gently, I will do what I can and I will leave what I cannot to Allah, because peace does not come from controlling everything, it comes from trusting the one who already does. At the heart of every anxious thought is a question, what will happen to me? And at the heart of tawakkul is the answer, whatever happens is in the hands of Allah, and He is enough for me. Tawakkul is not just a word we say. It is not something you whisper only in moments of fear. Tawakkul is a way of living, a mindset, a deep-rooted belief that transforms how you see every situation in your life. Many people misunderstand tawakkul. They think it means doing nothing and expecting everything to work out. But that is not trust, that is avoidance. True tawakkul is a balance between effort and surrender. You strive with everything you have, and then you release the outcome completely to Allah. Think of it like this. You plant the seed, you water it, you take care of it, but you do not control when it grows, how it grows, or whether it blooms. That part is not yours. That part belongs to Allah, and anxiety begins when you try to take control of that part. You start worrying. What if it doesn't grow? What if it fails? What if all my effort is wasted? But tawakkul silences these fears. It reminds you that no effort done sincerely is ever wasted and no outcome is ever outside the wisdom of Allah. When you truly rely on Allah, your perspective changes. You stop measuring your life only by results and you start measuring it by your sincerity and effort. Because you know that success is not always what you see, it is what Allah knows. Tawakkul also means trusting Allah's timing. Sometimes your anxiety comes from delay. You prayed, you worked hard, you tried your best, but things are not happening when you want them to, and that delay begins to shake you. You start questioning, why is this taking so long? Did I do something wrong? Is this not meant for me? But tawakkul teaches you patience with purpose. It reminds you that Allah is never late. His timing is precise, even when it feels slow to you. What you see as delay may actually be preparation. What you feel as denial may actually be protection. And here is something powerful to remember. If you trust Allah with your nihaya ending, you will find peace in your bidayat beginning and your wasit middle, because you are no longer obsessed with controlling how everything unfolds. You know where it is leading. Another beautiful aspect of tawakkul is that it frees your heart from fear of people. When you rely on Allah, you are no longer enslaved by opinions, expectations, or outcomes controlled by others. Your club becomes anchored in something higher. You do not panic when things change. You do not break when things go wrong. You do not lose yourself when things don't go your way. Why? Because your trust is not in the roof circumstances. Your trust is in Allah, and Allah does not fail. But tawakkul requires practice. It is not built overnight. It grows every time you choose faith over fear. Every time you say, I leave this to Allah, and truly mean it. Every time you stop yourself from overthinking and remind your heart that Allah's plan is already in motion. So when anxiety whispers to you, what if everything falls apart? Let tawakkul answer. Then it will fall into the hands of Allah, and that is the safest place it can be. Hold on to this deeply. You are not alone in your journey. You are not responsible for the outcome, and you are never in control, but you are always under the care of the one who is. And when you live with that certainty, anxiety begins to lose its power, and your heart finally learns what it means to be at peace. One of the most exhausting patterns of anxiety is the constant loop of what if? What if I fail? What if I lose this opportunity? What if things don't go the way I planned? What if everything falls apart? These thoughts don't just pass through your mind, they settle in your heart, creating fear, tension, and restlessness. The problem with what if thinking is that it traps you in a future that doesn't exist yet. It pulls you away from the present moment and places you in imagined scenarios, most of which are negative and overwhelming. And the more you engage with these thoughts, the stronger they become. But Islam offers a powerful shift, a mindset that breaks this cycle completely. It teaches you to move from what if to even if. This is not just a small change in words. It is a complete transformation in perspective. What if is rooted in fear, even if is rooted in faith. When you say, what if I fail, your mind immediately begins to panic. You start imagining the worst case scenario, and your heart reacts as if it has already happened. But when you say, even if I fail, Allah has a better plan for me, something changes. Your fear no longer controls you because your trust has taken its place. The even if mindset doesn't deny challenges. It doesn't pretend that life will always go smoothly. Instead, it accepts uncertainty, but anchors the heart in certainty of Allah. It says, even if things don't go my way, there is wisdom in it. Even if I lose something, it was not meant to stay. Even if I struggle, there is reward and rushed growth in it. Even if I don't understand now, one day I will. This mindset gives you emotional strength. It prepares your heart not just for ease, but also for hardship, without breaking, because the reality is, life will not always go according to your plans. There will be moments of disappointment, confusion, and loss. If your peace depends on everything going perfectly, then you will always feel anxious. But if your peace depends on your trust in Allah, then even imperfect situations will not shake you. Even if thinking builds resilience, it allows you to move forward without being paralyzed by fear. You can take risks, make decisions, and pursue your goals, not because you are guaranteed success, but because you are secure in Allah's plan regardless of the outcome. And this is true freedom because now your actions are no longer controlled by fear of failure. They are guided by faith and purpose. Another powerful effect of this mindset is that it protects you from despair. When something doesn't work out, instead of collapsing emotionally, your heart already has a foundation to stand on. You tell yourself, even if this door closed, Allah will open another. Even if this path ended, there is a better direction waiting. Even if this hurts now, it is not the end of my story. This doesn't remove the pain, but it gives meaning to the pain. And when pain has meaning, it becomes easier to tackle bear. So how do you start developing this mindset? It begins with awareness. The next time you catch yourself thinking, what if? Pause. Don't let the thought continue unchecked. Gently interrupt it and replace it with an even if statement. For example, what if I fail? Even if I fail, I will learn and Allah will guide me to something better. What if I lose this? Even if I lose it, Allah will replace it with what is best for me. At first, it may feel unnatural. But with time and repetition, it becomes a habit, and eventually it becomes your default way of thinking. And when that happens, anxiety begins to loosen its grip on your heart. Because you are no longer afraid of every possible outcome. You are ready for them, with faith. So remember, what if keeps you stuck in fear, but even if moves you forward with trust. And when you live with that trust, you don't just survive uncertainty, you rise above it. In the middle of anxiety, when your thoughts are racing and your chest feels tight, there is one place where your heart can find immediate relief. Salah, not just the physical act of prayer, but true hadr, present, deeply connected salah. Many people pray, but not everyone experiences the peace that comes with it. Why? Because salah is not meant to be rushed, mechanical, or distracted. It is meant to be a meeting. A direct conversation between you and Allah, the one who already knows what is inside your heart. Think about that for a moment. The same Allah who controls your future, the same Allah who knows every outcome, the same Allah who understands your fears better than you do. He invites you to stand before Him 5 times a day. This is not a burden. This is a gift because anxiety grows when you feel alone with your thoughts. When everything is inside your mind, it becomes overwhelming. But Salah takes those thoughts out of your dhehn and places them in front of Allah. And suddenly you are not carrying them by yourself anymore. When you raise your hands and say, Allahu Akbar, you are not just beginning a prayer, you are declaring something powerful. Allah is greater than everything I am worried about, greater than your fears, greater than your problems, greater than your uncertainty. But for this to truly impact your heart, you have to slow down, pause between your words. Feel what you are saying. Let your qalb engage, not just your tongue. When you recite, don't rush through the verses, reflect on them. When you bow, don't just bend your body, humble your heart. And when you go into sujud, realize that you are in the closest position to Allah. Sujud is not just a position. It is a release. It is the moment where you can let everything out. Cry if you need to. Speak honestly. Admit your fears, your dhaf, weakness, your confusion. You don't need perfect words. You don't need a perfect state. You just need sincerity. Because Allah is not looking at how beautifully you speak. He is looking at how sincerely you turn to Him. And here is something deeply powerful. The things that keep you awake at night are already in Allah's control, so why carry them alone? Bring them into your salah, turn your anxiety into dua, turn your khuf into trust, turn your restlessness into surrender. Over time, something begins to change. Your salah is no longer something you have to do. It becomes something you need, a place where your heart resets. A place where your mind slows down, a place where your soul breathes again. And even if your problems don't disappear instantly, your ability to handle them becomes stronger. Because peace is not always the absence of problems. Sometimes it is the presence of Allah in your heart despite those problems. So when anxiety hits you, don't run away from salah, run towards it, even if you feel distracted, even if you feel heavy, even if your mind is not fully hadir. Start anyway, because every step you take towards Allah, He brings you closer to peace. And remember this, the world will not always give you calm. People will not always understand you. Circumstances will not always go your way. But in salah, you will always find a door that is open, a connection that is unbroken, and a peace that is unmatched. So protect your salah, deepen your salah, and most importantly, feel your salah, because it is not just an obligation, it is your lifeline in a world full of anxiety. One of the deepest, yet often unnoticed causes of anxiety is our attachment to the dunya, the temporary world we live in. The more tightly your heart clings to things in this world, the more khuf, fear, stress, and restlessness you begin to feel. Why? Because everything in this dunya is unstable. Wealth can decrease, people can leave, opportunities can change, health can fade, plans can fail. Yet, despite knowing this reality, we often build our emotional stability on these very things. We attach our happiness to outcomes, our worth to achievements, and our peace to people. And when any of these things are threatened or taken away, anxiety rushes in. It's like holding on to something fragile with all your strength, knowing deep down it could break at any moment. That tension, that constant anticipation of loss, that is anxiety. Islam does not tell you to abandon the dunya completely. It does not tell you to stop loving, stop working, or stop striving. Instead, it teaches you something far more balanced and powerful. Hold the dunya in your hands, not in your heart. There is a big difference. When something is in your hands, you can benefit from it and appreciate it. But when it is in your heart, it begins to control you. Your emotions rise and fall with it. Your peace becomes dependent on it. And this is where anxiety begins. For example, if your heart is deeply attached to a specific outcome, like a job, a relationship, or a goal, you start to fear losing it. You overthink every detail. You stress over every possibility. You feel like your entire life depends on it working out. But the truth is, it doesn't. Your life does not depend on any created thing. Your life depends on the Creator. And when your heart shifts its attachment from creation to the Creator, everything changes. You still work hard. You still care. You still make effort, but your peace is no longer at risk because now, even if things don't go your way, your heart remains stable. This is what detachment in Islam looks like. It is not coldness or adam ihsas, lack of feeling. It is emotional independence from the temporary and deep dependence on the eternal. It means you love people, but you don't rely on them for your ultimate happiness. It means you pursue goals, but you don't tie your worth to achieving them. It means you enjoy blessings, but you don't panic at the thought of losing them because you know that whatever Allah gives you is a trust, and whatever He takes back is not yours to begin with. And this understanding brings a no type of peace that nothing in this world can give. When your heart is attached to Allah, you stop fearing loss the same way. Because you realize that nothing truly meant for you will ever miss you. And nothing that misses you was ever meant to stay. This doesn't mean you won't feel pain. You will. You're human. But your pain will not destroy you. It will not leave you lost or empty because your heart is anchored in something unshakable, and that is Allah. So if you find yourself constantly anxious, constantly worried about losing things, constantly stressed about outcomes, take a step back and ask yourself, what is my heart attached to? Because whatever you are most attached to is where your anxiety will come from. But if your greatest attachment is Allah, then even in the middle of uncertainty, your heart will find calm. So loosen your grip on the dunya, not by giving everything up, but by giving your heart to the one who owns everything. And when you do that, you don't lose the world. You finally gain peace within it. One of the most powerful truths that can completely transform your relationship with anxiety is this: nothing is bigger than Allah, not your fears. Not your past, not your problems, not your future, nothing. Yet when anxiety takes over, it makes everything feel bigger than it really is. A small problem starts to feel overwhelming. An uncertain future begins to feel terrifying. A delay feels like a permanent failure. Anxiety magnifies everything until it seems like you are surrounded by things you cannot handle. But the reality is those things are not as big as they feel. They only feel big because you are looking at them on their own without remembering Allah. When you disconnect your problems from Allah, they grow in your mind. But when you reconnect them to Him, they shrink back to their true size. This is why one of the most powerful phrases you say in your daily life is Allahu Akbar. It doesn't just mean Allah is great. It means Allah is greater. Greater than what? Greater than everything that is worrying you. Greater than the situation you don't understand. Greater than the fear you can't shake. Greater than the obstacle in your way. But here is the question you have to ask yourself honestly. When you feel anxious, what feels bigger in your heart, your problem or Allah? Because your emotional state often reflects what you are magnifying inside. If your problem feels bigger, your heart will feel khuf, fear, tightness, and panic. But if Allah feels bigger, your heart will feel sukoon, calm, trust, and strength. So the goal is not to deny your problems. The goal is to reframe them. Instead of thinking, this is too much for me, remind yourself. This is never too much for Allah. Instead of thinking, I don't see a way out, remind yourself, Allah can create a way where none exists. Instead of thinking, I can't handle this, remind yourself, Allah will not give me more than I can bear. This shift may seem simple, but it is incredibly powerful. It pulls you out of helplessness and places you into trust. Because now you are not relying only on your limited strength, you are relying on the unlimited power of Allah, and that changes everything. It gives you courage to face what scares you. It gives you patience when things are unclear. It gives you hope even when things seem dark. Another important thing to understand is that anxiety often comes from forgetting who Allah is. We believe in Him, but we don't always reflect on His attributes. We forget that He is Al-Hakim, the most wise, Al-Rahman, the most merciful, Al-Qadir, the all-powerful. We forget that nothing happens without His knowledge, His permission, and His wisdom. When you reconnect with these attributes, your heart finds reassurance, because now you know. The one controlling your life is not careless. The one writing your story is not unjust. The one testing you is not unaware of your pain. He knows, He cares, and He is Qadr over all things. So the next time anxiety rises, don't let your thoughts spiral. Pause. Take a deep breath and remind yourself slowly and with conviction. This is not bigger than Allah. Say it again if you need to. Let it settle in your heart, because the more you repeat it, the more your perspective begins to change. And the more your perspective changes, the less power anxiety has over you. Remember, your problems may be big, your fears may feel real, your situation may be difficult, but Allah is always greater. And when your heart truly believes that, you don't just face life. You face it with a strength that anxiety cannot break.